Good morning, Upper. For the last time, welcome to the class of 2022. We ask that you before the today's speakers. Today is Jack Fraser. Jack will be introduced by his best friend, Mr. Thomas.
It seems we have come full circle. I introduced the very first senior speech this year that started the parade and starting the last day of speech. In doing so, my two advisees have broken sacred number 2 of my advisory group. This rule states that my advisees have the freedom of choice, my blessing, to act on these very decisions, provided their actions or lack thereof do not make extra work for me. Jack's excessive disregard for sacred rule number 2 has a long history, and so it was in anticipation of yet another violation of sacred rule number 2. It's probably good that I'm here. I have brought with me some items to eliminate any possible excuse for Jack completing this monumental task, and hence the extra work for me. So I have brought Jack a speech. Well, it's actually an open letter from the people of Texas and the world by William Barrett Travis, commander of the Alamo in 1836, that he could use in case his speech is not quite finished. So I'll set it right here. Brought Jack a headband to keep the hair out of his eyes so that he will be able to perform his speech. I have brought Jack some water in case his mouth becomes too dry and claims he cannot speak anymore. And I have brought Jack a snack in case he claims he's too weak of hunger to continue. I'll leave those here. Thus, with barriers removed and the opportunity to adhere to sacred rule number 1, to do the advisory group proud, I now present Jack Kramer.
Morning. Well, here we are, the end of the road. Who knew we'd make it this far? As I look out into the room today, I see hundreds of beautiful souls, all a smaller part of this large, complex machine that we call school. I see faces of family, faculty, and friends. I see the people who have practically raised me and who have supported me through my many challenging endeavors here at Collegiate. Coming here as a scrawny, loud, and annoying 13-year-old in 7th grade, I never could have imagined the unforgettable experiences I've experienced in and with my peers. I know I'm not exactly the model student by any measures, but I try to share with you the importance of collegiate in my life. I was one of the lucky ones who got to go on the last Dauphin Island trip. As a freshman, the whole grade went on a coach bus, and everyone was yelling and screaming the entire ride. The bus was at least 8 hours long, and the best memory was easily the swamp. I remember walking through the swamp, shoulder deep in mud, screaming at everyone to get out of my way. The place we stayed in was like a little schoolhouse with long hallways, and I remember staying with Francisco and being forced to clean up the entire room. We all did this super weird parade to a rapper who had recently died, and we got to dissect squids, which smelled awful and was very gross, but nonetheless a great time. Another important memory that I'll keep with me is when we beat KCB and got to go to Eastern Kentucky for the All-A State tournament. Beating KCD is probably the best part of all that. Seniors will remember Eli Allen and Will Stevens, and when I was the only eighth grader on the team, the whole class got to come watch the game. Even though I barely played, it was awesome. It was the second time in school history that Collegiate got to go, and everyone was super excited. The vibes were high, and I remember walking in and seeing the court and imagining what it might be like to play for a college team. I saw kids who were twice my size, kids I had read about and watched on YouTube. We ended up winning the first game, and that was the farthest Collegiate had ever won in the first round, and it was a great feeling. Surely most of you know I love to drive. No matter the occasion, time, place, whatever, I'm driving. Throughout my short 2-year driving career, I have a surprisingly numerous amount of stories and laughter to share. If you know me, you know I drive fast. It's just how it is. I don't know why. Inherently, this, what some may call poor decision making, has provided for some unforeseen adventures, such as the time I went the wrong way down a one-way street downtown. The guys and I were staying at Jason's, and for some unknown reason, we were out hopelessly driving for food at 3 a.m. Our predicated yet surprisingly strong urge for a good cheeseburger, or maybe even a whole entire pizza, grew quite quickly. I really don't know how we ended up downtown, but we did. I guess my hunger had gotten the best of me or something, but I was driving like a blind dog hunting for food. After getting upset with the awful GPS on my phone, I said, forget it, I can do this on my own. Oh boy, was it fun. I turned down a road I thought was a shortcut, and there were no cars, so I wasn't really concerned. They were coming at me. Screamed a few expletives, almost touching the car, but thanks to my expert driving, of course, I got it pointed in the right direction. We never did it. While today is probably just another regular day for most people, today holds a lot of significance for me. Wrapping up the senior speech, it's really starting to hit me that this is one of the last times we'll all be in the same room today. With that being said, I just want to make sure I give the much deserved thank yous where it's needed to the faculty and staff of the school. I know it obviously goes without saying, but I would not be anywhere near where I am without you. From the moment I have entered Collegiate doors, I have felt an unmatched sense of utter care and immense love from the community. I know I have been nowhere near the perfect student, and I sincerely apologize for all the warranted corrections and nudges which I know have been expected. My gratitude towards any faculty or team community representation is endless. I genuinely cannot thank you for supporting me every step of the way, no matter how difficult I have made it. You teachers hold a special place in my heart. Next, to my parents. Mom, Dad, you all mean more to me than I cannot express enough the appreciation, constant care, support, and love. Without you all, I literally would not be here, but you know what I mean. I love you all very much. Last, to my friends. You all know who you are, the luckiest people in the world. I'm kidding. But seriously, thanks guys for taking care of me for the past almost 6 years. You guys have taught me so many lessons that I will forever cherish, and just know Cream is always going to be with you. Thank you.
Our second speaker today is Caroline Mercer. Caroline will be introduced by her uncle, Brad Mercer.
As stated, I'm Caroline's uncle Brad. The first one is that I don't to do this, Caroline. Thank you. I often babysat for Caroline, and she was just a little baby. And I'm very proud of the young lady she's become today. I fondly remember what a sweet little kid she was. When she was little, she wore these little cute glasses she had, and it didn't matter what question you asked her, the response back kind of a little weird look up at you, and she would say, "Lady," or she did it constantly. It was she was cute kid. So as an adult, I've always really admired Caroline's focus, her determination and drive, her ability to set goals and work incredibly hard to achieve those goals to get where she wants to be. Whether it's 5 a.m. every morning in the pool, in the classroom, raising awareness for things she believes in, knows what she wants, and she isn't afraid to make the tough choices and put in the effort and the time and the hard work to always get to where she wants to be. She's an incredible big sister to Thomas and Elby and a role model for my 3 daughters. As I often point to Caroline as an example of how she would work hard to achieve her goals, but more importantly, always being kind and a great friend to others. She brings a positive attitude and a great conversation to anyone she's with. Caroline, it has been a privilege to be a part of your life and watch you grow from a sweet young kid into an incredibly focused, determined, and kind-hearted young lady. You deserve all the happiness. I love you, and I can't wait to see where you go from here. It is my privilege to introduce Caroline Mercer.
Adaptation is the core principle to the existence of life on Earth. Adaptation is defined as the modification of an organism or its parts that make it more fit for existence under the conditions of its environment. Organisms must change to be able to thrive. An example of an organism that has adapted to better survive in its environment is Aeropus phyllosus saltwater, or saltwater catfish. I have had an encounter with this organism that I would like to share. Let me set the scene. It was a sunny Thanksgiving day in 2020, Ray Beach. I was lying in the sun next to Ellie and Alice, enjoying the great day. Our families are right down the beach conversing as our younger siblings fished and played in the sand. Ellie and Ellie began to feel hungry and headed back up to grab a snack. As they left, Alice and I were called over by our mothers to take a picture with the fish that our younger siblings had just caught. We smile for the camera as my brother and I each hold one of the fish. As I walked towards the lapping waves to return the fish to its aquatic home, I felt a sharp pain stab into my upper back. I reached my hand across my back to feel for what had happened. My brother had decided to toss a fish at me in hopes to receive an entertaining reaction. Though he was unaware that over hundreds of years, these animals have developed signs on their fins as a means of self-defense. If this creature is attacked by an animal, or in this case a human, it raises those spines, which are covered in thousands of razor-like spikes that secrete poison, an attempt to sting its attacker. At this point, I was still truly unaware what was going on. I saw everyone on the beach rush over to me. The group fishing beside us runs over with a pair of pliers and hands them to Dr. Rabbit, a dentist and the most experienced medical professional on the beach. He begins to perform emergency surgery, attempting to extract the spine lodged deep into my back. But thanks to the miraculous adaptation of this fish, its thousands of razor-like spines prevent it from being removed without the flesh it penetrated to come along with it. This forced Dr. Abbott to leave the barb in my back, so the only thing he could do was detach the spine from the dangling fish. I then walked along my mom and Mrs. Abbott to the closest car, which was Elliot's, which happened to be a mile away, and then drove to the closest emergency room, over an hour away. Thanks to this animal's adaptation of self-defense, I have a scar on my upper back and a wonderful souvenir. Every time the venomous spine, I see the venomous spine on my bookshelf, I am reminded of that day, the importance of adaptation. Similarly to the catfish, I have had to adapt to the obstacles that have been put in my way, as have we all. This ability to change is the only option for survival, no matter the situation. I do not have an eardrum in my left ear. My entire childhood was spent fighting chronic and extreme ear infections, the result of which was the loss of an eardrum. Living without an eardrum means that I've lost 80% of my hearing in my right ear. This has made everyday tasks much more difficult for me. My phonemic awareness, which is the ability to identify and manipulate sounds, is compromised, making it harder for me to quickly comprehend what people are saying. Because of my impaired hearing, my ability to spell words is also compromised. Throughout grade school, my daily life was lived with cotton balls stuffed in my ears to absorb drainage. I was teased and called names because of this. I would have to constantly go to the bathroom to wipe the drainage from my ears. I would even be called out in front of the whole class and get in trouble for leaving the classroom so often. The worst consequence of not having an eardrum is that swimming is forbidden. Doctors say that the risks are too great because of the chance for infections to spread to the brain. But swimming is the only thing I cannot do now. I chose to rebel, as I typically do. I had to find a way to do what I love, and I did. Silicone wax earplugs have had a huge impact on my life and are one of the few things I cannot live without. Allowing water to enter the ear canal can cause infection, or in my case, worsen it and lead to other major issues. So, to prevent this, I wear earplugs. Though wearing earplugs does not completely resolve the problem, it makes the risk I face much more reasonable. The second time I learned the importance of adaptation was my sophomore year of high school. The event happened when I was working with a chemistry tutor. I was solving a problem when he asked me, "Are you dyslexic?" To me, this was quite insulting at the time. It was like he was calling me stupid. I said, "No, I am not." He later called my mom to tell her his opinion. I thought he was crazy and mean and refused to ever work with him again. But that's having me tested. It was true. I do have dyslexia. Somehow I had made it all the way to my sophomore year of high school without anyone ever having any suspicions, when the typical age of diagnosis is first grade. This is because my mind adapted. I had never shown any signs of struggling with reading or switching around numbers and letters. Now that I'm aware of my diagnosis, I catch myself rereading lines in books and writing numbers out of order. For example, 1, 2, 3 as 1, 3, 2. I was able to adapt to figure out how to read in a way that worked for me, even though I suffered from Though it may take me a little bit longer and I make mistakes along the way, I'm still able to successfully complete the task. My mom likes to tell me we didn't figure out I had dyslexia for so long because of my persistence on doing things my own way. So I think this contributes. I also have my bodily adaptation to things. Ironically, one of my guilty pleasures is animal and nature documentaries. I love the sound of a British man's deep, steady voice as he illustrates a scene with elaborate detail. Though I may not be able to regrow a tail or change colors to hide from my predators, I have discovered my own way of adapting. I have learned that this is my strength. Though it isn't easy to adapt to change, when faced with difficult situations, we can choose what decision to make. I have learned to adapt and modify myself and my surroundings to work no matter the circumstances. Though learning this is not easy, it has prepared me for my future, for any future obstacle I may face. Seniors, as we walk into the next chapter of our lives, we need to remember to never change who we truly are, yet be able to adapt to our surroundings. We cannot control what will come, but we do control how we react.
Our final speaker for the class of 2022 is Will Thacker. Will be introduced by his grandmother, Deborah Sears.
A long time since I've been before a group of students. You look really good. Thanks for having me, Chris. Congratulations, class of 2022. Been a long way getting here, hasn't it? Well, I'd like to start off by saying I had I thought, a really nice speech. Will read it a while ago and said, part of that's got to go out. So part of my speech has been removed. I told him it was not going to be 5 minutes, but he did make me take out part of it. So I had all these that have been scratched through. But I'm going to get started. And I'm not going to be real mushy, but I am going to say, when Will was born, he made me a grandmother. And it was one of the proudest days of my life. Every single day since, he's continued to make me very, very proud. He's been one of the greatest joys to watch him grow into a fine young man that will be standing before you here today. He's been a diligent and determined basketball player, leading his on and off the court. And he's been an inspiring student, taking his education seriously. But last night when I was looking, I found the student assignment book that's never been touched. Completely empty. So I was a little worried about that statement when I said he took his education very seriously. But this nice lady assured me that he is a good student. So as a former teacher, I'm glad to hear that. So thank you for reassuring me. When he was little, he used to say, "Gran, I'll love you to the moon and back." And I would say, "Well, I love you to the moon and back." Then he would say, "Gran, not to be outdone," he would say, "I love you to the moon and back and to infinity and beyond." I'm going to say right now, well, I love you to the moon and back and to infinity and beyond. And I cannot wait to see what life brings. It's my pleasure, if I can get through the tears, to introduce my grandson, Will Thacker.
Good morning. I'd first like to start things off with a poem by V.P. Cowell. It has been one of the greatest and most difficult years of my life. I learned everything is temporary. Moments, feelings, people, flowers. I learned love is about giving everything and letting it hurt. I learned vulnerability is always the right choice because it's so easy to be cold in a world that makes it so very difficult to remain safe. I learned all things come in foods, and joy, salt and sugar, me and you. It is the balance of the universe. It has been the year of hurting so bad, and living so good. When I came across this poem, I was on senior spring break with all my friends just a couple of weeks ago. Prior to reading this senior speech had been lingering in the back of my head for a while. Knowing that the inevitable of having to get up in front of the whole upper school to give a 5-page speech about myself really stressed me out, because I had no idea what I learned to write. I had previously written a number of different drafts, and my original speech was scheduled for, but none of them felt like the right choice until I happened upon this quote. Growing up, my childhood was idyllic. I was raised in a small town called Anchorage. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Anchorage is a town where everyone knows everyone. Every single kid goes to the same school. Anchorage has one restaurant, one bank, one police station, and about 2,000 people that call. For some, growing up here may sound boring and too bland, but for me, I loved it. I lived in a cul-de-sac with all of my friends, growing up, spending our childhood together. Every single day, playing games, riding bikes, and making fun of the little entertainment that Anchorage offered. Could not have been more ideal. While I lived in what seemed like paradise, I was never exposed to many hardships. When I got older, I attended my freshman year of high school at Trinity, where I was one of many boys coming from it. Although I had a solid group of friends, played on the basketball team, and good education, there I felt like a number. Teachers did not have relationships with their students, and it was difficult for me to come to such a big school and such a tight-knit community like it. I knew that a smaller school was the right place for me to be. I decided to make the transition to collegiate. This can't look back on as one of the best I've ever made. I get the camaraderie and community that collegiate has, the way teachers reach out to their students, and the help and support collegiate has. That takes us up to now, the last year of my life, one that I will forever remember as the toughest. The minute I had found a school where I felt like I really belonged, COVID took me away from it. The basketball season was cut short after starts and stops due to positive tests. The season I was hoping would be a breakout. And the night I will forever remember. As most of you know, I was the driver in a serious car accident. This was a turning point in my life. I dealt with something that opened my eyes to the reality of being old. Being in the middle of a situation I would have never dreamed of. I was no longer worried about a history test or basketball practice, but an issue that forced me to mature in what felt like a leap. This event was a traumatic one, and one I will always know should my future. As rumors floated around the school, it became important to me to neglect myself. I may seem like a happy-go-lucky person on the outside, but under that, I'm still human. There's more to me on the inside, just like everyone else. This experience exposed me to an array of emotions I've never felt before. Most of them all was anxiety. I had a hard time falling asleep, as I knew once I did, the director circle my dreams. I was anxious about leaving the house. I didn't want to have to explain what happened, and didn't want to face anyone at school. This caused anxiety about being behind in my schoolwork as my absence tallied up. Finally, I was most anxious about the health of my friends in the crash, how they were doing, what they were doing, and how their families were handling the situation. I had no idea how to deal with these emotions. As tough as the time as this one was for me, I learned more about myself during this period of my life than I ever had before. One of the biggest was the true importance of family. I'd like to thank my mom, my dad, my stepdad, and my grandma for teaching me a number of things, including that I don't have to deal with my problems alone. Before this, I would often speak to myself about many of my issues. I would feel uncomfortable if I were forced to talk to them. This situation and the support changed me forever. I also want to thank you for most importantly giving me unconditional love and support throughout this period of my life. I truly don't know what I would have done without them. Next, I want to thank my friends. As this year has brought some of my lowest points in my life, it's also given me some of the best times. And I'm really thankful for that. Over the past year, I've made some of my best friends here and ones that I know I can count on whenever I need. I will always remember the big things with you guys, like going to prom, spring break, going to a sporting event here for kids. The things I'll miss most are the smaller things, like going to get food after school on Fridays, or being in study hall together with company girls. Those are the things that mean the most to me. I also want to thank my friends from Anchorage that I've known my entire life. This year especially, I feel like I've grown closer to them than I ever have before, and the loyalty and consistency of being a friend is something I truly admire and always try to replicate in my everyday life. Last but not least, I'd like to thank Collegiate. I'd first like to thank this school for accepting me sophomore year, giving me the chance to have some of the best experiences. Faculty and staff make every day here a wonderful experience, and I truly feel that transferring here was the best decision I've ever made. Collegiate has been amazing through the great times and the harder times of my time here, and I know I would have never gotten the support I did if I went somewhere. The past year, although it's brought some of the toughest challenges of my life, I've also while I wish I could have done some things differently, I've come to realize that the tougher moments in life are the ones that end up shaping me. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to our three speakers